Grace and peace. Welcome to Judah's Word Domestic Violence Awareness Initiative YouTube channel. I am your host, Apostle Cheryl. Before we get started, I'm going to give you a few seconds to check down there below the video and click that subscribe button, and then make sure that you click the bell for notifications, and that way you'll be notified each time we upload a new video on Sunday evenings at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, in the description box, you'll find other ways that you can partner with us in our quest to end domestic violence. Okay, thank you for taking the time to take care of that. So today's topic is going to be anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is defined as an intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Anxiety is an intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Now, there is an extent to which feeling anxious is normal in stressful situations, okay? Like if you're taking a test or if you have to engage in a public speaking engagement or something like that. And so there are times when it's normal to experience some anxiety, and in fact, it may be abnormal to experience none under certain circumstances. It's only an indicator of underlying disease when the feelings become all consuming and intrusive and they interfere with our ability to live our day to day life. Okay, those things that are important to us in our day to day functioning, we're not able to engage in them effectively because of these feelings of anxiety, then it has become problematic. So, anxiety is a feeling of fear, dread, and uneasiness, and it may cause you to have some physiological symptoms, sweating profusely, feeling restless and tense, having a rapid heartbeat, um, or experiencing stomach upset, or an increased sense of alertness, hyper alertness, being on edge, feeling edgy, okay? Anxiety can be beneficial in some circumstances as it can alert us to danger, right? And it can help us to discern how to best navigate in those situations. And so, just like most things in life, balance is key. It's when it becomes excessive and pervasive that is problematic. Anxiety disorders are different from normal feelings of nervousness or anxiousness. And as I said before, it involves excessive fear or anxiety. Anxiety disorders are one of the most common of mental health disorders and affect 30% of adults at some point in their lives. Now, if someone has an anxiety disorder, know that they are treatable. All hope is not lost. Anxiety refers to the anticipation of future concern and is more associated with muscle tension, the sweats, as I said previously, and avoidance behavior. So when we experience these anxious feelings repeatedly over time, it causes us to want to naturally avoid the situation that's triggering the anxiety, whether that is public speaking. It could be something that we have to do every day, like go to work. Um, and so it can become really problematic. Now, fear is an emotional response to an immediate threat and is associated with our fight or flight reaction. Do I stay and fight, or do I get up out of here to a place of safety? Okay, and so again, those feelings that we have when we experience fear, that fight or flight reaction, the feelings that we associate with that, the knot in the stomach, the knot in the throat, the sweaty palms, the hyper alertness are all very, very uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable, and over a prolonged period of time, we develop this desire to avoid feeling that at all. Okay. And so then the situations that we associate with those feelings become situations that we may try to avoid. Generally speaking, in order to be diagnosed with an actual anxiety disorder, which remember now is more intense and more pervasive than just experiencing the anxiety that we would normally experience, in a situation that's unfamiliar to us. The fear or anxiety must be out of proportion, okay, to the situation or be age inappropriate. It must it must hinder our ability to function in a normal fashion. Now, diagnosis and treatment. There's a set of criteria that have to be observed, experienced in the person who is reporting these feelings. They need to last over a certain period of time. And your mental health professional, your doctor, is able to determine and ascertain if you have an actual anxiety disorder or if you're just experiencing anxiety under normal circumstances, okay? So you want to see your doctor to rule out any medical or physical problem that may cause the symptoms that you are experiencing. Um, if an anxiety disorder is diagnosed, a mental health professional can help you to develop a treatment plan that will help you to navigate it and manage it successfully. Some effective forms of treatment are talk therapy and medications, or both. Okay. Um, Stress management techniques, um, belonging to a support group that can help to encourage you and help you to navigate these unpleasant feelings that you're struggling with. And as I said before, there are different types of anxiety disorders. Now, how does anxiety relate to domestic violence? What on earth does anxiety have to do with domestic violence? Listen, if you already have an anxiety disorder or you are challenged by excessive feelings of anxiety, it can really predispose you and set you up to be more vulnerable to the gaslighting, to the isolation, and to the other coercive control tactics that are frequently utilized in domestic violence riddled relationships. Okay, so it can make you more susceptible, uh, make you more easily manipulated by the abuser. Because there's a tendency, like I said, to avoid anything that will cause the anxiety provoking situation to occur in the first place. And so you may find yourself going along with things that you don't really go along with, accepting behaviors that you normally would not accept just because the anxiety that you experience when it's time to set a limit or to set a boundary. The other thing is, even if you enter a relationship and you discover that it's abusive and you don't have a predisposed tendency to be anxious, you can develop depression, you can develop anxiety, you can develop post traumatic stress disorder as a result of enduring and being subjected to over time the gaslighting, the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, the psychological abuse, the financial abuse, the spiritual abuse. Okay, so having endured these things for a long time can make you susceptible also uh, to developing anxiety or depression. These disorders, the anxiety, the depression, etc., alter the way we view the world. It alters the way we view ourselves. It alters our ability to believe in the power that we have within us to withstand and to overcome uh, how we are being treated. Okay, and so it affects how we navigate our lives day to day, and it affects our ability to believe that we can do anything about how we're being treated if we are in fact ensnared in a domestic violence riddled relationship. Anxiety disorders affect 40 million people in the United States, but only 36.9% of them ever receive treatment. Mental health professionals use a standard set of criteria uh, in order to diagnose an actual anxiety disorder, and the symptoms cannot be caused by a medical or physiological uh, problem. and it needs to last at least 6 months. So, a duration of at least 6 months with no physiological or physical reason for the symptoms that are being experienced. Those criteria include an excessive ongoing worry and tension, an unrealistic view of problems, restlessness or feeling on edge, trouble concentrating, trouble focusing, tiring easily or being fatigued, increased crankiness or irritability, insomnia, struggling to get to sleep, struggling to stay asleep once you get to sleep, um, muscle tension, aches, and soreness. People with generalized anxiety disorder may also have other disorders such as panic disorder, phobias, obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, or they may struggle with substance abuse or misuse. Let's look at the causes and risk factors. One risk factor certainly is having a history of abuse, whether in childhood or in adulthood, uh, history of sexual assault, being a victim of a violent crime, uh, being a victim of domestic violence. Experts are unsure about the exact causes, but it is believed that genetics, brain chemistry, and environmental stresses contribute to the development of an anxiety disorder. Now, let's take a look at genetics. There's no family gene that's been identified to attribute this to, but it is believed that it is passed down in families by way of lifestyle or environment. What do I mean by that? By the way the family functions, the dynamics within the family. If the adults in the family or the caretakers in the family tend to have a highly anxious response to life challenges, then what is learned by the children in that household is this is the appropriate way. The world is about to end, and I really should be panic stricken about it. And this is how we respond to unsavory, challenging circumstances in life. And so, oftentimes, as many things are in families, it's passed down because it is observed by the children in the household. Okay, and it becomes a coping skill for them as well. Another possibility is brain chemistry. It's been linked to problems with certain nerve cell pathways that connect particular brain regions involved in thinking and emotion. These nerve cell connections depend on chemicals that are called neurotransmitters. And these chemicals send information from one nerve cell to the next nerve cell. If these pathways are impeded somehow, if the pathway from one nerve cell to another nerve cell in this region of our brain is negatively impacted, it's impeded somehow, um, problems related to mood and anxiety can result. And then environmental factors, trauma and stressful events such as domestic violence, witnessing domestic violence in the home, even if the child is not the direct target of the violence, but observing the domestic violence in the home, being a victim of sexual assault in childhood or adulthood, the death of a loved one, which can be extremely, extremely stressful, withdrawal from an addictive substance can also contribute to anxiety. Remember that a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder depends upon the intensity, the duration, and the degree of interference in our daily life functioning um, that we are experiencing. It is then determined if the person has a specific anxiety disorder, because there are many, or generalized anxiety disorder. And it's important that the diagnosis is made as accurately as possible so that the best treatment plan can be developed for that individual. Now, in addition to talk therapy and medication, sometimes we do talk therapy, sometimes it's talk therapy and medication together that gives the best result. Um, an adjustment in lifestyle habits is also really, really beneficial. Exercise, whatever form of exercise you can enjoy and draw some pleasure from. For me, is kickboxing. I love to kickbox, okay? a healthy diet, avoiding caffeine, proper sleep hygiene, right? Um, avoiding alcohol and drugs, and then implementing relaxation techniques, whether that be a hot soak in the tub, a long hot shower, aromatherapy, listening to soft music as you try to go to sleep. You want to make sure you get the proper amount of sleep, that you get adequate sleep, and that not just that you sleep long enough, but that the quality of your sleep is beneficial to you. What have we been talking about? We've been talking about anxiety and what it has to do with domestic violence. Um, it's most definitely a factor, either because it predisposes us, if we have a history of anxiety, it predisposes us to be manipulated um, and overpowered emotionally by the abuser, or if we enter a relationship and we realize that it's abusive and we stay in it over time, it can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, okay, in us. This is Apostle Cheryl with Judas Roy Domestic Violence Awareness Initiative. It is my prayer that this video has been helpful to you. You be safe out there. Blessings to you.